Welcome back, guys. My name is Adam. I have Rusmin.
Hello.
Victor.
Hi, everyone.
Today, we're going to talk about our favorite AI ETFs. So AI is a big thing, and a lot of stocks like Nvidia going up all the way to the moon. And for some of you who are looking into, exposure into AI ETFs, are one way you can get exposure into that. So we're going to share some of our favorite ETFs in this AI space. So before we jump into that, I want to talk a bit about AI.
So over the last 5 years, I think we've seen a lot of technological breakthrough, right? I think we have seen EV mass adoption. That was in 2020 where Tesla share price have gone up, right, significantly, and but they actually benefited just Tesla or certain one industry, EV, right? And then of course we have seen blockchain. Right, and then after that we have metaverse,
which
no more already.
No more, right? So a lot of this technological breakthrough when it needs a mass adoption, right? But sometimes certain technology will only benefit the industry. But what I'm seeing with AI is that it's going to benefit across the industry, just like how internet actually benefited all of us, not just Cisco, right? Cisco used to be the initial company that
like the backbone of the internet.
The backbone of the internet,
the
right?
NVIDIA of that time.
NVIDIA of that time. And they provided like routers, switches, all the networking equipment, which empower us to use the internet, right? So NVIDIA is now at that stage where they are benefiting a lot from the AI because people needed the GPU, right? The H100 chips, right, to power all these cloud computing and intense GPU performance that they needed to do the large language model, right? So, but they are not the only company that's going to benefit from AIs actually, right? So, in fact, this industry, the AI revolution, I think is going to empower or change industry across the world, right? I think just to give you some example, I think just ChatGPT alone, when it was launched, it is actually the first time that we are able to talk to data without going through a data engineer or data scientist.
I think it felt just so natural. I think there have been chat bots before, but they were terrible.
Yeah,
they were
very terrible. Really. When I remember when I started using ChatGPT, I was like, wow, because previously there's really such similar system, but then their reply is like, what the hell is this, man?
So this ChatGPT, they call it large language model or natural language, where they reply you like a human, right? So that actually changed our game on how we really talk to data. So, and that, people like us without any data engineer background, we can really talk to data, research a lot of data without going through another layer, and that actually revolutionized the whole industry. So ChatGPT, I think we all can see it, how powerful it can get, right? So it can help us craft an email, right? Do a lot of stuff, right, on ChatGPT, but still can't recommend stock yet. Okay, so that's why you still need to watch this channel. So, and then of course, Microsoft themselves, they actually implemented Copilot on the Microsoft Office. So if you have actually used Copilot, you can actually use Microsoft Excel to help you analyze troves of data that you have in the Excel spreadsheet, right? So Copilot can actually help you to do that. And of course, if you use Zoom, right, I think they also able to summarize the minutes of the meeting itself, right? So they actually improve a lot of productivity that we get out of this AI, and that will help companies to save on costs because they improve the productivity alone, right? So there's kind of massive benefit that we are seeing. And I think in the pharmaceutical industry also, you actually see AIs are actually being used to discover new drugs. They are able to modify certain molecules, right? The AIs themselves can actually do that, and based on the stats that I've seen, I think that actually improved the success rate, but by up to go up to as high as about 87%, 0.5%, right? But in the past before that was 75% on average, the drug discovery when they successfully go through FDA approval phase 1, the success rate is 87.5% versus 75%. That's a huge jump for the pharmaceutical industry, right? So, and of course in China, we also see AI is being used, live streaming. So live streaming is very popular in China, right? So the e-commerce market over there. And I think recently, we saw in April, they actually uploaded a photo of Richard Liu when he became the guy that doing the live streaming. But actually that's not actual Richard Liu, right? It's just a photo of him, and then they use Gen AI to actually empower this photo to do live streaming, and people it went viral in China. All right, so and you can actually, I can go on with different industry, but I think you get to see that AI revolution is not just going to benefit companies like Nvidia. It's going to be across different sector, right? So and if you look at a lot of research or forecasts how AI is the whole sector is going to grow, it's in trillion, right? So and that is over the next 5 to 10 years. So it's going to be an exciting time. But that's where I think AI ETFs come into the play, and that's why we have this roundtable. And how do you actually position yourself from this revolution of AIs, right? So what companies to look out for, and ETF is just one of the good ways for you to get exposure into that. And of course, if you go and dig the AI ETF out there, ETF database will tell you that there are 39 ETFs in the US alone that talk about or focus on AIs, right? So which one do you choose? And the most obvious answer is that people will look at, the ETF with AIs name on it, right? So like this AIQ, right? Global X Artificial Intelligence, and then they'll tell you, how big the market is going to grow for AI itself, what are the benefits of investing in this ETF, blah blah blah, right? So this AIQ itself, I think the AUM size, the asset size is right now is about close to 2 billion. And if you look at their top 10 holdings, they have companies like NVIDIA, which currently benefited from this AI's revolution because they are the backbone of this AI, right? So and they have this transformer model, right? So if you look at NVIDIA, they sell the GPUs, right? So people are ordering a massive tons of GPU. Look at how much, billions of dollars that Meta is spending on GPU, all the big tech guys, right? So this guy, that's why you look at share price has gone up a lot, right? And they also have holdings in Tencent, which also benefited from AIs because Tencent has their advertising segment where they actually use AIs to help to improve the ads targeting. Right, so that will help improve the return on investment for the merchant, and when the merchant see ROI on their advertisement, they will spend more.
So
and
it's
that
like similar to Meta.
Similar to Meta, right? So they also have holding on Meta, right? So these two are actually benefited from AIs.
I think I want to give a context on how this actually companies actually go into the ETF, right? Because some of the companies maybe you see, hey, are you sure this AI?
Yes,
right. So I think for the AI ETF, right, I think mostly they focus on 3 categories, right? The first one is what we call the enabler, which is like those firms that creates the hardware, the software that makes the AI possible. So like you got your NVIDIA, the GPU chips, like your Intel, Microsoft, which is they got the cloud structure, and also they got the their operating system. So that is the enabler. Then after that you have the engager, right? The engager is basically companies, right, that integrate AI into their operation to create value, improve efficiency, reduce costs, right? So you have like Alphabet, Amazon, and Tesla. Then finally, the last one is what we call enhancer. So enhancer, these firms, right, they focus on optimizing the AI technology that they build upon their own AI to help other people to improve, right? So you have like Adobe, right? I think they have this new Adobe Sensei or Firefly, which help the designer to to do like digital marketing or what, if you have like example Splunk, right, to help to do data analytics and all this. So these are called enhancer lah.
Okay, so actually some companies could actually fall in two or three categories, not just one. Because like Alphabet is I would say is an enabler as well because of its
also enhancer,
hyperscale, clouds and everything.
So as long as they are in one of these 3 categories, the AI ETF will go and buy them.
So again, then of course you have Netflix also. I think this is also a beneficiary from AIs. They are actually
I think they are engager. They're more engager.
So it helps to personalize the kind of show that you like.
The recommendation engine.
And that will enhance the stickiness of user on the platform. They will stay with them, so that reduce the churn rate.
They were saying, I think some Hollywood people were saying that in a few years or how many years later, you're going to have AI creating movies all by themselves.
So that probably will be something.
That would be mind blowing, but that's something that Netflix could actually get behind.
Benefit.
You just get an
AI tool. That will definitely reduce their costs because now they are spending a lot doing the movies, right? Before that, they are free cash flow generative, but after they start movie production, that's where they spend a lot of money. But if that were to go through, I think Netflix will fly. But
it just seems so far away. How would an AI actually like film a whole movie?
You never know.
You never know. But this is how the potential of things.
ChatGPT can come out with movie script nowadays. Right?
Wow. I mean,
I don't know how good it is, but
the good thing about AI is, right, when we see it now, we know that it's going to for adoption already. Right? It's different from Metaverse. That the point of time when Metaverse came, we say, wow, it's very good, but at that point of time, it's still not that mass.
Like it's cool, but you don't know how you're going to use it.
Yes, correct.
But AI is like, I could use things.
Yeah. So I think again, back to how do you benefit from this AI, right?
Yeah.
So usually we look at the top 10 holdings to get an idea whether this ETF is really like benefiting from AIs, right? So by looking at certain companies, I think we can really tell, right? So I think I was like talking about Netflix and then Alphabet, which you also mentioned. They do have the cloud, right? Where a lot of now Gen AI, all the ChatGPT or Gemini that's happening is actually through the cloud. And Alphabet have their Google Cloud, right? Which you needed to process all this computational, and they have all this GPU chip built into their data center, right? So they also one of those companies that I think is going to benefit from this AI itself. And Qualcomm, right? Chips, Broadcom. And of course Oracle and Alibaba also, which is another cloud providers, and they're also benefiting from AI itself, right? So look at the top 10 holding itself. This really artificial intelligence is really like, okay, they have the right holdings over there, but they still have some missing companies over there, right? So I look at Microsoft. Hey, look, Microsoft is one of those companies that have like profit sharing with on the ChatGPT, or which is OpenAI,
right? Yeah.
Right, but it's not inside. Maybe it's part of the top 88 holdings which this fund actually own, right? So and
but it's not in the top 10.
It's not in the top 10. I want Microsoft to be my top 10, right? So this probably will be out for me, right? And on top of that, the expense ratio is about 0.68.
That's pretty high, yeah.
It's slightly on the high side, but it's still cheaper than hedge fund. 2% or 1%. But it's slightly on the high side. And then
for
of course,
net asset value is considered quite low for their net asset, about 1.94 billion.
About 2 billion. So this one, is AI ETF, but I look at the combination, it's not that ideal for me. Then of course we move on, right? We have this iShare US Technology ETF. They don't call themselves as like AI ETF, but if you look at the top 10 holdings that they have, this one is a lot more diversified. They have 131 holdings versus 88 holdings for the global X artificial intelligence ETF, right? So, but if you look at the top 10 holdings, I think this one is a lot more interesting. You have Microsoft on the list. That's about 18%. Right? Some of you may not be comfortable, but you don't have to have just stick to one ETF, right? You can have many ETF, right? So, but Microsoft is one of it, and then Apple about close to 15%. And Apple, I've never really heard much about.
Recently, there's been some news that's coming out.
So WWDC, they have been like announcing a lot of AI features that we're gonna get, and they work with ChatGPT. So to me, Apple is pretty much lagging behind, but they still own the platform, the operating system, which I think pretty much all of us may still use it. Use Apple to do Gen AI kind of stuff, artificial intelligence.
I think that's the thing with Apple is that they tend to take their time with new technology.
Yes.
And then once it's like more concrete,
and then they start
implementing it into the entire base. So right now we're just seeing Genmojis, where you use AI to create emojis, which is such a nothing thing, but it's funny.
Seems like you can use AI to create a lot of things.
But it was quite cute. I saw a video on that. But anyway, that's about Apple.
But so Apple is really like not in the ahead of the curve in terms of AI, right? But they may still benefit from AI itself, just that it's still not very obvious right now to me, right? Nvidia, of course, there's also a good position there. Meta is also benefiting from it. Broadcom, Alphabet, Salesforce, AMD, Adobe. I think all these are pretty fine, right? So but it's quite decent, right? They have about 100 over holdings, and if you look at the expense ratio, it's about 0.4%, which is slightly cheaper than the global X artificial intelligence ETF, right? So this is a good alternative, actually, when I look at it. And if you look at the last 5 years' performance, I think they have done pretty well, about 23% on a year-to-year basis.
That's pretty good.
Very impressive.
So 23% per annum average.
Yes.
Annualized.
Yeah. So I think largely because maybe they have high holdings in Microsoft, right? Nvidia, Meta, which actually benefited a lot, right? But if you look at the global X artificial intelligence, they do have some of those Chinese tech like Tencent, Alibaba that may have dragged down the performance, and they have a smaller holdings in the Nvidia, Amazon. It's a lot more diversified, even though they only have 88 holdings, but each holding they actually does not exceed 5%. Some people are comfortable with it.
So the weighting is more equal.
More equal, yeah. But iShare ETF, I think they have more concentrated. But although they have 100 over holdings, right? But their top 10 holdings are more concentrated, right? And then of course, this could be one good alternative, even though they don't say themselves as an AI ETF.
It seems like maybe it's like a tech ETF that happens to have AI.
Yes.
Boosted by AI.
They are leading the industry, right? So, and a lot of these companies that in their top 10 holdings have that AI impact.
Okay.
Right?
But of course, most of the time when you talk about AI, usually it's the tech company.
Tech, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. So indirectly they are building an AI. Really.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, then the third one that we have would be the Fidelity, right? So MSCI, Fidelity MSCI Information Technology ETF.
Okay.
Right. So this ETF I think if you look at this, also is more diversified. They have like 300 holdings.
Wow.
Okay. So but top 10 holdings that they have is they have Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, pretty similar to what iShare US Technology ETF owns, right? And then Broadcom, Salesforce, AMD, Adobe, right, Oracle, Cisco, very similar, right? So this company, again, they are in the good position to benefit from artificial intelligence, right, revolution. So and the fees only comes in at about 0.08%.
That's even lower than the SPY. You put it that way.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, it's even lower than the iShare US Technology
much
ETF.
lower,
At 0.4%, right?
Yeah.
And the AUM size, if you compare to the iShare, is about 16 billion, right? And this Fidelity, they have this AUM size about close to 10 billion. Okay, which is actually smaller.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but
it's not as big
cheaper.
as the iShares one.
Yeah, iShare is actually the largest, one of the largest, right? And then followed by Fidelity, right? So Fidelity, but their fees are a lot cheaper. And I think over time, Fidelity might get more inflow of funds coming in, right? Because of the very similar in terms of the holding, right? Of course, we are just focusing on the top 10 holdings, and they still have 290 over holdings that we don't go into that, right? But this is how the rest of it, you can only trust that ETF provider that they're actually doing the right selection for you. Yeah, that's how you usually approach when you buy ETF. You are basically relying on them to pick for you.
Yeah, but I think you also need to take note that the Fidelity and the iShare, their top 3 holdings, which is Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, account very close to about 50% of the whole portfolio.
Yeah.
So it's still very heavily concentrated on these 3 companies.
Yeah. So I think that's a good thing about knowing these things, because some people go, I just buy an ETF, I'm done with it. But actually there's a lot of some layer of analysis that you need to go through to actually figure out whether this ETF makes sense for me and my financial goals. Some people may not be comfortable with 50% concentration in just 3 stocks, even though they are the big, Microsoft, Nvidia, and stuff like that. And someone could be more comfortable with the ETF that has more equal weighting. Spread out across different companies that way.
Yeah.
So
but it's a small ETF.
It's a smaller ETF. So these are the things that you need to weigh, and not just I'll just buy an ETF, because they're actually the things that you need to consider expense ratio, tracking error, stuff like that. Yeah.
But based on last 5 years, iShare US Tech ETF and Fidelity one actually performed pretty well. I think about 22%, for 23% on average year-on-year basis.
Because they got Nvidia.
Is this all boosted by Nvidia?
And they have higher concentration in Microsoft, right?
Okay.
And Nvidia versus Global X Artificial Intelligence, which have lower concentration in each stock. Right, so some people may be comfortable with it, but the performance for Global X AI ETF, I think, is only comes in at about 14%, which is pretty good still.
Okay.
Right. So which one? It's my favorite.
Yeah.
The one with the lowest cost. But you still need that decent AUM size to make sure that the ETF doesn't close down.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So and Fidelity, I think they have close to 10 billion AUM. I think it's pretty sizable.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And of course, if you want biggest one, iShare US ETF, which is going to be more liquid for sure, right? If you compare to Fidelity, and because the AUM size is about close to 16 billion.
Okay.
And precisely because the Global X is so small in terms of the fund, that's why the expense ratio is the highest. Right. If not, the fund manager probably don't want to do the
typically
ETF.
if the ETF grows bigger, they can
scale advantage.
They can lower the fees if they want to. So looking at all this, I think, is it easy for you to kind of go through the ETFs because you kind of know these companies?
Yeah.
And you know how to analyze them already, so that the skill comes in handy.
And I think the fact that we already have our investment process, and we have also spent amount of time that looking at some of these companies. That's why when I look at some of these ETF, it's a lot easier for me to understand. This one fit into the top 10, right? And now this one, there's something missing, like I said, right? So how come Microsoft is not inside that Global X AI, right? Because they are the forefront of AIs, and they're not inside. Yeah, and this, of course, it comes from the framework that we already have and we have been learning, right? Which is what we call it as Alpha Quadrant, right? Yeah. And of course, with this skill set, Alpha Quadrant, on how we analyze companies, actually it helps us to appreciate better by selecting some of this ETF itself. Yeah.
So it's not just about using, because if you're interested to find out more about Alpha Quadrant, it's actually open right now. Yeah. As of, I don't know when you're watching this video, but as of now till the 30th of June. So at 30th of June, end of the month, we're open for enrollment to join Alpha Quadrant, where you can learn how to use this investment framework to pick stocks that can grow 3 times, 5 times based on their business model and their growth potential. So these are the things that we're going to look out for. And at the same time, when we learn all these things, we can apply it to ETFs as well. Because then you can understand the individual components of the ETF and say, actually, that's not so good. Or this is pretty good. And then you kind of fit the ETF to what you actually what you're looking for.
So in the end, I think for us, we don't invest in any of these ETF. We rather cherry pick some of these stocks that is going to benefit directly from the AI revolution. And Alpha Quadrant actually help us to go through that process of analyzing that company. For example, Microsoft, when I analyze that Microsoft, I say, hey, look, this is one of the companies that's going to benefit a lot. Not just NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA, of course, is a direct beneficiary right now. But over the mid to long term, I think Microsoft gives you that sustainability of earnings growth. Right? That's going to be a big compounder over time, right? So Alpha Quadrant will comes in and then help us to do that, right? And that's basically how we use it to find companies that multiply over time, and then we want to put more heavy weightage on these companies.
So
and there's zero cost to that.
Yes, true, because if you ETF, there's some fees. If you do it yourself, basically DIY, you save on fees. But then you basically get to pick your own ETF in a sense, almost like you pick your own portfolio.
Pick the companies that you want to form the ETF, which is going to be your main portfolio.
In a sense. So,
but that takes effort, of course, time also. So it's not something that you come in and then you straight away, you can carve that ETF, right?
But it's a very useful skill. It's a life skill actually. So if you're interested to know more about Alpha Quadrant, do check out our website, alphaquadrant.com. It's open until 30th of June, and we're open for enrollments. And then of course you get to go through the entire course where we teach you this investment framework to find all these kinds of companies with growth potential. And of course, we also have live web classes.
Correct.
Where Victor and Rusmin are going to spend an entire afternoon with you live online, going through the key topics that you need to know. It's kind of almost like a crash course. And you can apply it to your portfolio straight away. All right.
And I think most importantly, Victor also going to share with you how do you actually differentiate different type of business model that can scale a lot more quicker versus those company that can't scale. Or maybe in the sunset industry. So these are the things that you need to really learn and make sure that you invest in those companies that is going to benefit from certain circular trend. Right? And then you're going to see your companies multiply in terms of return over time.
I mean, this was the question I was going to ask you. So you feel it's better to pick your own like AI stocks rather than go with an ETF?
If I'm lazy, I'll just go for the ETF, right? Fidelity, for example. But now because I have that skill set, knowledge, which will be a lifetime skill that will be really useful, and it helps me to appreciate why I invest in certain ETF. So that is a very important skill, right? So I will still pick my own stocks, right? Because that is like a hobby, a passion, I would say, right? And partly also because of the investment experience that we have built over time.
Would you also say that because maybe in the area of AI, maybe it's not so clear yet? Because like if you go if like S&P 500, it's established. Everyone knows if you buy that, it's the whole, almost the entire US economy. Right? But when it comes to a new growing sector like AI, sometimes maybe the ETFs are not so clear, like which one has the right holdings, or they're not so established. The AUM is not big enough. What do you think about that?
I think the track record is still very short for AI. AI company. And also, you must know that when you buy into the AI ETF, right, you don't know what's the valuation, right? So at the end of the day, if you can buy with whatever asset, you can buy at a good price. I think even you buy a lousy asset now, there's still possibility that you make money, right? But if you pay for expensive price, in terms of the value, definitely the probability of losing money is very high. So at the end of the day, you also need to learn how to look at the ETF and to see what's the exact value at that point of time.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
For
that's a good
individual company, why we pick, because we know how to value the company. Right.
Yeah.
We do teach in the Alpha Quadrant that what's our valuation method we do, and how do the valuation methods connects back to the business model, the business situation, the history, the possible futures and all this. So it's not just plain valuation value like that, but you have to really link back to the business, and also the management, right? How the business and management plays a role, right, will determine how do you value the company actually.
And why we don't look at Tesla, for example.
Okay.
Okay. So how do you calculate intrinsic value, whether it's a good time to invest in that certain stock right now? Some stock in the AI ETF index are really expensive, right? Some are not. All right. So this is where Alpha Quadrant comes in, really helps you to go through that process. Yeah.
Okay, so just to summarize, these are the 3 ETFs that we've picked out. IYW, then the FTEC, and then the AIQ. So I'm just giving the ticker symbols right now. You can check them out for yourself. I think it's a good exercise to have a look at the ETFs, what the expense ratio, what the top 10 holdings especially, because if you buy an ETF, you actually the underlying securities are these stocks, and you should actually go through and actually understand what these companies are and what you're buying. And I think the point you made about valuation is very important as well, because a lot of times when people talk about ETFs, they don't seem to talk about valuation, because fair enough, a lot of them have a DCA strategy into like the the S&P.
That's a broad-based index.
There's a broad-based
index.
From
thematic index.
Correct. A thematic
ETF. Sorry. Yeah.
Correct. So that's a good point, because valuation comes into play as well.
Yeah.
And then the question goes, how do you value an ETF? And then that actually boils down to how do you actually value a stock, because that's why it is. So we actually teach all these things in Alpha Quadrant if you're interested to find out about that as well. So anything else you want to share about these ETFs? Anything else?
Not really.
Okay. So again, this is not a recommendation to buy or sell these ETFs. You just want to pick them out. So 2 of them are kind of the biggest ones in this space as well. The other one, AIQ, is a bit smaller, but also pretty focused around AI and stuff like that. So
go over to the lowest expense one.
Just go. When it comes to ETF, just go with the cheapest. Expense, not just the cheapest is one of the things, but it's a big ETF as well. So again, do check it out for yourself if you want to. Again, no recommendation to buy or sell. An ETF is just one strategy to get exposure into a particular sector, if you're not so into stock picking. But for us, we prefer stock picking in this space. Because then you can pick the best ones you feel fit your criteria. And then of course you wait for the right valuation as well.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So if that, if you like this roundtable, please hit the like button. Tell us we're doing a good job. Of course, any questions, put them in the comment section. And of course, check out Alpha Quadrant if you really want to find out, how to invest. And in companies that are able to grow 3 times, 5 times over the next X number of years, and how do you actually have an investment framework that teaches you how to value a stock? Do check out Alpha Quadrant at alphaquadrant.com. It's open until June 30th, and then we're going to close it for the rest of the time. And if you watch our videos, most of the time our courses are not open. Most of the time we're just talking on a round table. So when it's open, we'll let you know, and you can decide whether you want to join and actually learn something. How we do all these things and everything that we've been sharing with you, all the round tables, all year round. It's a skill. Is a skill?
Yeah, it's a skill.
It's a skill. But no skills future lah. Okay, no skills future. Okay. So with that, please, check it out for yourself. And of course, any questions, put them in the comment section and subscribe to our channel. Many more round tables come up, and we'll see you again.